Somewhere around 2 o'clock this afternoon, something is going to happen to your body. And if you're over 60, it's probably happening whether you eat perfectly, sleep 8 hours, or walk every single morning. Your energy is simply going to vanish. Not because you did something wrong, not because you're lazy, not even because you're just getting older, which is the explanation most people are handed and told to accept. That explanation is comfortable. It's also incomplete. Because the real reason healthy, careful, disciplined people still hit a wall every afternoon has almost nothing to do with effort, and almost everything to do with 4 quiet systems inside your body that started shifting years before you ever noticed. Once you see what's actually happening inside your cells, your hormones, and even the walls of your blood vessels, this stops feeling like a mystery you're stuck with. It starts feeling like a puzzle you can finally solve. Let's start inside your muscles, because this is where the story most people have never heard actually begins. Buried inside every muscle cell are thousands of microscopic structures called mitochondria, and their entire job, every second of every day, is converting food and oxygen into usable energy. Here's what surprises most people the first time they hear it. Clinical research suggests the number and efficiency of these mitochondria naturally decline as we age, even in people who have stayed active their whole lives. Picture it like this. In your 30s, you had a fleet of 500 delivery trucks running fuel to every part of your body. Engines fresh, routes efficient. By your 60s, that same fleet might be down to 300 trucks, several of them sputtering, engines worn, running slower than they used to. Nobody removed the trucks. They just wore down, quietly, without asking permission. And that single shift is enough to explain why a task that used to feel effortless, carrying groceries upstairs, gardening for an hour, keeping up on a walk, now leaves you needing to sit down. But here's the part almost nobody talks about, and it has nothing to do with muscles at all. It's about what happens after you close your eyes at night. Many people believe that if they're sleeping 7 or 8 hours, their sleep must be good sleep. It seems logical, but research suggests something stranger is going on. As we age, we naturally spend less time in deep restorative sleep, even when the total number of hours stays exactly the same. Imagine reading the same book every night, same number of pages, except more and more of those pages have quietly gone blank. Your body still clocks the hours, it just isn't getting the same depth of repair, hormone regulation, and cellular cleanup that deep sleep is supposed to deliver. This is one of the most overlooked reasons healthy older adults wake up already tired. Not because they slept badly by the clock, but because the architecture of their sleep has shifted beneath them while they weren't looking. Have you noticed that feeling? Waking up and within minutes already thinking about when you can lie back down? That's not weakness. That's not failure. That's biology behaving differently than it did 20 years ago. Now, here's where things get genuinely important, because fatigue after 60 is almost never caused by one single thing. It's usually 2 or 3 quiet issues stacking on top of each other, and the next one hides in something you've probably already had tested: your blood sugar. Even in people who eat carefully, insulin sensitivity, how efficiently your cells respond to insulin and pull in glucose for fuel, tends to decline gradually with age. Think of insulin as a key and your cells as locks. In your younger years, the key turned instantly. The door swung open and energy flooded in. With age, some of those locks stiffen. The key still works, it just takes more effort, more time, more turning, and energy delivery slows down in the process. This doesn't mean you're diabetic or even close to it. It simply means your body's feeling system has gotten a little less responsive, and that shows up as an energy crash in the early afternoon that seems to arrive out of nowhere. But there's another factor, and this might be the most emotionally frustrating one of all, hiding in a small gland in your neck. Your thyroid. Your thyroid regulates your metabolism, essentially setting the pace for how your entire body burns fuel. Clinical research suggests thyroid function can shift subtly with age, even when your test results land comfortably inside the normal range on paper. Some experts note that what counts as biologically optimal thyroid function may not be identical across every age group, which means a lab report that looks perfectly fine can still miss part of the real story of why you feel sluggish. If you've ever had blood work come back completely normal and still felt drained, this may be part of the explanation nobody gave you. It's a gap between no diagnosis and no symptoms, and it's worth a direct, specific conversation with your doctor, not just a passing mention. So far, one thing is becoming impossible to ignore. This was never about laziness, and it was never about doing something wrong. It's about a body that has changed its internal machinery, its energy factories, its sleep depth, its fuel delivery, its hormonal pacing, all at once, quietly, without ever sending you a warning label. And there's still one more system involved, and it might be the most visual of them all: your blood vessels. As we age, blood vessels naturally lose some of their elasticity. Picture a garden hose that used to expand and contract easily with water pressure, flexible and responsive. Over the years, that same hose grows stiffer, less pliable. Your arteries go through something remarkably similar, and stiffer arteries mean your heart has to work a little harder just to push oxygen-rich blood out to your muscles, your brain, your organs. That extra effort isn't free. It quietly draws down the energy you'd otherwise have left over to feel alert and capable through the day. This is exactly why physical activity becomes more valuable after 60, not less. Regular movement is one of the few things clinical research consistently links to blood vessels staying more responsive and flexible, even decades later.
Here's where most people make a mistake that actually works against them. It seems logical to think that resting more should fix low energy, conserve what little you have left, right? But the body works differently than that assumption suggests. Studies have found that in otherwise healthy older adults, extended inactivity tends to worsen fatigue rather than relieve it, because muscles, mitochondria, and even the brain chemicals that regulate mood depend on regular movement just to keep functioning normally. It's a frustrating paradox. The very thing that feels hardest to do when you're exhausted, getting up and moving, is often the most effective way to have more energy tomorrow. Not intense workouts, not punishing routines, just consistent, moderate movement that keeps these internal systems switched on instead of letting them quietly power down. There's one more piece to this puzzle, and it's rarely discussed openly because it isn't physical at all. It's emotional, chronic, low-grade stress. Most people associate stress with dramatic events, a crisis, an emergency, something loud. But ongoing background stress, financial worry, caregiving responsibilities, health concerns, and even quiet loneliness keeps cortisol, your primary stress hormone, elevated for far longer than most people realize. Clinical research suggests prolonged elevated cortisol can interfere with deep sleep, worsen blood sugar regulation, and even accelerate the mitochondrial decline we talked about earlier. In other words, emotional stress doesn't just make you feel tired in the moment it happens. Over months and years, it can actually reshape the biology underneath your energy levels. This is part of why two people with nearly identical habits, same diet, same walks, same sleep schedule, can feel completely different levels of daily exhaustion. One of them may be quietly carrying a weight that never shows up on a standard blood test. Notice how all of these pieces connect. It's rarely one broken system working alone. It's several systems, each running a little less efficiently, quietly compounding on top of each other until one day you look up and wonder why you feel drained despite doing everything you were told was right. Now, here's the part worth staying for, because this is where the story turns hopeful. None of these four systems are fixed. None of them are permanent sentences.
Clinical research suggests mitochondrial function can respond positively to regular movement, particularly activities that combine light strength work with cardiovascular movement, like brisk walking, swimming, or cycling. Sleep depth often improves with consistent sleep and wake times, reduced evening screen exposure, and limiting caffeine later in the day. Not because these are dramatic fixes,
but because your body's internal clock responds powerfully to rhythm and predictability. Blood sugar sensitivity tends to improve with regular movement and meals built around protein and fiber, which slow down how quickly sugar enters your bloodstream. And chronic stress, while it can't be erased from life entirely, can often be meaningfully reduced through small, repeatable practices. A short walk outside, a few minutes of quiet breathing, or simply telling someone you trust what's actually weighing on you. Here's what surprises people most once they hear all four of these together. None of it requires becoming a different person overnight. It requires small, unglamorous, repeatable habits. The kind that don't look impressive on paper, but quietly rebuild your body's energy systems from the inside out. Many physicians recommend starting with just one or two changes rather than attempting all four at once, because consistency practiced for months matters far more than intensity practiced for days. And there's a myth worth correcting directly, right here, because it may be the most damaging belief in this entire conversation. Many people believe that persistent fatigue after 60 is simply part of getting older, and therefore not worth mentioning to a doctor. But according to current medical understanding, unexplained or worsening fatigue can sometimes point to underlying, very treatable issues: anemia, thyroid imbalances, sleep disorders like sleep apnea, or medication side effects, once they're actually identified. This doesn't mean every tired afternoon deserves a trip to urgent care. It means that if your fatigue feels persistent, disproportionate to your effort, or is getting worse over time, it deserves a real conversation with your healthcare provider, not a quiet shrug and an assumption that nothing can be done.
What ties this entire story together is a truth most people never hear stated plainly. Energy after 60 isn't something you either have or don't have, like a tank that's simply running low. It's something your body actively produces, moment to moment, shaped by how you sleep, how you move, how you eat, and how you carry stress. When one of those systems quietly weakens, your energy dips. When you support even one of them, energy often returns, not to the exact levels of your 20s, but often much closer to what a genuinely healthy person your age should expect to feel. So if you've been exhausted despite doing everything you thought you were supposed to do, here's the truth worth carrying with you. You were never failing. Your body's energy systems changed in ways nobody ever clearly explained. And now that you understand them, you have something you didn't have this morning: the ability to work with your body instead of feeling confused by it. Small, consistent habits, a short daily walk, a steady sleep schedule, meals with a little more protein and fiber, a few honest minutes facing stress instead of burying it, rarely feel dramatic in the moment you do them, but practiced consistently, week after week, they tend to add up to something real: steadier energy, clearer thinking, and afternoons that finally feel like something to enjoy instead of something to survive. Before you go, sit with this for a second. Of everything we just walked through, mitochondria, sleep depth, blood sugar, blood vessels, stress, or thyroid function, which one do you suspect has been quietly working against you? Take a moment, actually think about it, because naming the right piece of this puzzle is often the first real step toward fixing it. If this helped you understand your own energy a little better, send it to someone who's been feeling the same exhaustion and wondering why. Sometimes the most valuable thing you can hand someone isn't advice at all. It's an explanation that finally makes sense of what they've been feeling. Thank you for spending this time with us here at Vital Theory. We'll keep bringing you calm, honest, science-based explanations for the changes your body goes through, because understanding your own health should never feel confusing or frightening. It should feel like something that puts you back in control. This video is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice. Please consult your doctor or a qualified healthcare provider before making any changes related to your health, especially if you're experiencing persistent or worsening fatigue.